I got a little bit choked up watching that because we actually closed on Broadway about 4 or 5 days ago, and it was the really a peak experience in my life. Just working with such an interesting amalgam of international people speaking different languages, great musicians, several Lebanese, including one of the best musicians I've ever worked with, whose name is George Aboud, and of course Tony Shalhoub, who should be honored at some point here. He has been, okay. But let me just say this, okay. That's a show, and I realize increasingly as I get older that all my work is really about how everyone everywhere is similar, as opposed to differentiation. One example of that is everybody from every culture, I find, has an Aunt Rose. Have you found that? If you're Lebanese, Italian, Irish. My Aunt Rose was my touchstone to Lebanon when I was a little kid. My father, who was first generation born, Lawrence, Massachusetts. My grandfather, Joseph, came from Bikfaya. Gonna get any love from Bikfaya? My dad would speak in Arabic with my Aunt Rose, who sort of was the holder of the recipes. And she taught my mother, who, Eastern European Jew through Long Island, she taught my mother how to cook Lebanese food, and my mother later taught Lebanese cooking. The one thing I remember is my Aunt Rose saying, the way you test the Lebni when it's cooking, before you stick your finger in and you hold it as long as you can until you pull it out, until you have to pull it out because of the pain. This explains probably a lot of my personality. The first time I went to Lebanon, I was 7 years old, and there's a direct relation to that trip and to writing the band's visit. I was in the taxi with my father. He was bringing me there to visit my grandfather, who had moved back to Lebanon after having worked in I think he had an ice cream store in Lawrence and had amassed enough money to live really well in Bikfaya. And the family had a house closer to Beirut. I was in a taxi, literally the first car I was in from the airport going up to Bikfaya. It was very hot. All the windows were open, and the edge of the mountain always seemed to be 2 inches away. And there was music playing from the speakers of this taxi. This music was mind-blowing to me, even at that age. It happened to be Kulthum, who, was, and I guess probably still is, the biggest singer in the world, if you just by population who loves and listens to her. I asked the taxi driver, or maybe my father through me asked the taxi driver who that was. He said Kulthum, and I have been a fan of general Middle Eastern music, Egyptian music, classical, what they call Oriental music, which is Arab classical music. Since then, being able to, and my career has been very weird and very urban and very New Yorky. I was a comedy writer on the Letterman Show. I did a lot of television writing. I had a band. We toured. We used to come here to DC, which I could never understand as a place to play with a band, because sometimes we come here and we'd have 300 people, and sometimes we come here and there'd be 30 people. So you explain that to me later. The point being, this evolution, this journey to the band's visit, when it was presented to me, it felt like a way to reconnect, not just with these musical roots that Oren was talking about, and with this sort of seed of musical curiosity that was planted in Lebanon, but also a way to, Lebanon seemed even then and still seems, even to me as a young kid, seemed like a very strangely divided place. These strong divisions between Christian, Muslim, the refugee camps, the whole Middle East, a place where borders where physical, psychological borders, religious borders were so strong. The band's visit, which is about an Egyptian band that visits the wrong town in Israel because of mispronunciation, and the fear and the kind of tension turns into something very human, something that's at the root of all our relations when we can dissolve those borders. Music is as close to a metaphor for love and for God as I can imagine. It's a universal language. That's not a cliche. Well, it is a cliche, but it's true. So I wanted to I'm glad I'm here. I get to let's just thank Lebanon for round of applause for the country of Lebanon. I would like to thank Lebanon. I want to go back there this year. Next year, I'd like to play music there. I'd love to bring our show there, the band's visit, if we can. We'll be in DC this summer if you want to come see the show with our tour. Thank you for this honor. Thank you for helping me reignite this connection with Lebanon. I will bring this back and I will give it to my father. Thank you.